Technology has played a significant part in how many of us have been able to deal with the lockdown. Those with access to e-commerce and things like Netflix have had an easier time getting through. Imagine lockdown 20 years ago with a Nokia 3210, a dial-up modem and only 3 TV channels. At least your phone's battery would have lasted for a week. Technology has certainly helped us get through lockdown. The futurist Graeme Codrington has been looking at what technologies we might use to get out of the lockdown. Graeme, good evening to you. So many questions here. One of these is about apps that actually trace contact with the coronavirus.
Well, Stephen, you know, that's how South Korea basically dealt with COVID initially. It's called track and trace, and basically your phone knows where you are. You know, it has the geolocation technology built into it, and it does, in fact, whether it's an Android or an iPhone or any of the others, it basically knows where you are, tracks that information. It doesn't share it with anybody unless you give that permission. And in South Korea, the government basically required citizens to share that information, and then what they would do is, using the technology of the cloud, they would basically make sure that if anybody was found to have COVID-19, that they then tracked back and looked at all the other millions of cell phone users and worked out who these positive cases had actually been in contact with for 15 minutes or more, contacted those people and asked them to get a test. So a complicated story, but basically it worked in South Korea. Other countries now have kind of moved in the same direction. So a few weeks ago, Australia announced that they were releasing an app called COVID Safe. And initially nobody downloaded it. Then the Australian government came back and said, we need at least 6 million people to download this app before we can start easing lockdown. And I think they had about 9 million downloads within the next 24 hours. As soon as people have an incentive to use some of this technology and to realize that it's worth sharing my data, then it looks as if people get on board. Of course, the UK has also been trying to build their own track and trace app, and at the moment they keep delaying the implementation because they're battling to build it. It's not easy technology, and you do need to make sure that everybody uses it. And I suppose this is the problem that we have if we're going to use this type of technology. It works in disciplined societies where everybody has a cell phone with data switched on all the time and has the latest phones. It works in societies where people are more trusting of their government, and it works in societies where people are more trusting of big data companies to release their data. Not everybody's comfortable with that, Stephen, and I think that's been part of the problem of implementing a track and trace technology around the world. Worked in South Korea, doesn't appear to be working too well in many other places at the moment.
I think in one case, Apple and Google took an idea from one of the governments and said, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to do it completely differently because we don't trust you. So there's all sorts of matters of trust here. There's also the idea of a movement passport, a system that you would have on your phone that would actually show that it's safe to let this person on a bus or it's safe to let this person go to a concert.
So, Stephen, I think that's what's going to come next. So the track and trace has, where it has worked, it's worked really well. I think what we're going to start to see next in the next few months is that as people want to get out into crowded spaces, you know, now it's okay, we know we can ease out into the economy, but, you know, if we all want to go to live events at the same time and we want to go to a concert again, we want to pack into our favorite restaurant, we want to go to conferences, hotels, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a piece of technology that could verify if you had immunity? You can get immunity a number of ways. If a vaccine has been available, and you've been talking about this on your show already this evening, if and when a vaccine is available, it would be great to be able to verify you've had it and you've taken it. Before a vaccine's available, if somebody has antibodies in their system, they've had COVID-19 and now they've recovered, we think, and medical doctors think that you now get some form of immunity. If there was a technological way to capture and verify your immunity so that you can prove you're not infectious and you're not going to get the disease. That would be a remarkable piece of technology to have. Would basically allow all of us to go out into crowded places as long as everybody else in the crowd is using that same piece of technology. So I'm looking forward to seeing some technology solutions for something that's a problem that's going to be with us for a while.